All right, hello and welcome everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where in the world you might be joining us from. Today, we're going to focus on the SEVIS transfer process. So if you are currently at a U.S. institution hoping to transfer your SEVIS record, then this pre-arrival webinar is for you. My name is Grace Fuller. I serve as the Interim Assistant Director of International Experience and Engagement here at the International Services and Engagement Office. You might also hear this office referred to as ISEO, and I use she, her pronouns, and I'm joined by my wonderful colleague, Vanessa, who I'll invite to introduce herself.
Hello, welcome everyone. My name is Vanessa Cisneros, and I am an International Student Advisor here at ISEO. Thank you for being here today, and I look forward to walking you through the transfer process today and working with you a lot in the future.
Wonderful. Okay, so a quick snapshot of how we'll spend our time together. We have just some reminders as you begin your journey and your first steps here at UC San Diego. Then we'll talk in detail about transferring your SEVIS record, whether you are currently enrolled at an institution or you are on OPT or optional practical training. We'll have some final reminders, and then we'll have time dedicated at the end for open question and answer. So some housekeeping, if this is your first time joining us, you are in listen-only mode, which means you can hear us, but unfortunately we can't hear you. So the main way we'll interact together is via that Q&A feature on your Zoom menu bar. If for some reason we don't get to your question today, please know you can contact us via icontact.ucsd.edu. And finally, we are recording, so you'll be able to view this webinar recording as well as all other webinar recordings in about a week's time from the date of posting or hosting the webinar at inewstudentwebinars.ucsd.edu. You'll click on Fall 2025 Pre-Arrival Webinars. This is just a snapshot of what that Q&A feature will look like for you. Please know that we do have a dedicated time to answer questions at the end. So if we don't answer your question right away, it's likely that we're saving it. However, I know that for myself, sometimes I have a question and I'm nervous I'm going to forget it. So if you want to submit that question during today's presentation, you are welcome to do so. So if this is your first time joining us, we just want to extend a warm welcome. So at the International Services and Engagement Office, you'll likely first interact with our office as you're requesting your Form I-20 or your DS 2019 for your F1 and J1 visa. We have so many staff here who are excited and working hard to get you those immigration documents. We also support in a myriad of ways, right? So for processing your immigration documents, advising on how to maintain your international student status, as well as different programs and events to really hope that you have a holistic experience at UC San Diego. And I love to feature our students a little bit. So as you can see, we have such a diverse student population, 8,000 international students, about 4,000 grad and undergrad. You can see some of the most common fields of study represented here, some of our top 10 places of origin, knowing that we have 110 countries represented. So I just want to say you make our community better. We are so excited that you are coming to UC San Diego and joining our Triton community. And we look forward to meeting you in person in the fall, but interacting with you up until then virtually as you begin your Triton journey. Okay, so some just reminders from graduate admission. So your first steps, just know that if you're a graduate student, please remember to log into your applicant portal, accept that offer of admission, fill out that statement of legal residence form if it's listed, and start to submit as you're able those pending admission documents, knowing you can always contact gradadmissions@ucsd.edu if you have questions. And for our undergraduate students, it will be fairly similar, but just slightly different. So again, logging into your applicant portal, just being mindful that that URL is different to get to your undergrad applicant portal. You're still going to offer that accept that offer of admission. You're going to complete that California residency for tuition purposes questionnaire, and that will again trigger the activation of your Triton Link Active Directory and your Duo accounts. And that is how you get your UC San Diego PID, personal identification number, and email. So these are really important. We include these every time because it's kind of unlocks the rest of the process. I'm going through these slides quickly, so know that there's more detailed information at inewdegreestudent.ucsd.edu. And again, I'm a new student, so you can see here that we have separated it out. So depending on your degree level program, you should be able to access information that's relevant to you. And with that, I'll hand it over to Vanessa to talk more in detail about transferring your SEVIS record.
Hello, everyone. Welcome again. I want to, before we begin talking about transferring your SEVIS record, I want to echo something that Grace had mentioned about the Q&A function. Please use that function for any questions that you have, but I will set some friendly parameters on those questions. So please do your best to pay attention to the presentation today and the information we are presenting. And if you have a case-specific question, so if your question is about your specific timeline or your specific situation, please be sure to find your way to icontact@ucsd.edu to get in contact with one of us advisors so that we can help you navigate those specific questions. If you have questions about the general SEVIS transfer process, then that's what's going to be really appropriate for the Q&A. We just can't provide really specific answers at this point in time in the webinar. So I just wanted to let you know that now in case you have a question that might not be answered. This presentation has a lot of information in it, and I highly encourage you to listen actively and watch the slides, screenshot them so you have them before they're posted online if you need to. And we are recording, so you'll see it about a week after it posts, and the link is definitely in the chat. Let's get started by first understanding what is a SEVIS transfer. An F1 student may be eligible to transfer their F1 record between Student and Exchange Visitor Program, CVIP certified schools. And this refers to institutions who host F1 international students. The SEVIS transfer process is a way to electronically move an F1 SEVIS record, also called a SEVIS record, from one school to another, while retaining the same SEVIS ID. The SEVIS ID is listed at the top of your Form I-20. The SEVIS transfer process does a couple of things. First, it sets a date called the SEVIS release date, on which access to the student's record transfers to the new school. This basically means that your current school on a specific date will transfer the responsibility of maintaining your F1 student record to UC San Diego. Second, it also ensures that your current SEVIS ID number, that long number at the top of your I-20 that starts with N00, will remain the same, even though you will be obtaining a new form I-20 from UC San Diego. And sorry, Grace. And of course, 3, it ensures that our institution, UC San Diego, will now be responsible for updating your SEVIS record and advising you on how to maintain your F status. The SEVIS transfer process has 4 steps. The first step is to determine your eligibility for a SEVIS transfer. The second step is to choose a release date and request a SEVIS transfer from your current institution. The third step is to request your Form I-20 from UC San Diego. And the fourth step is to receive your I-20 from UC San Diego and complete the SEVIS check-in process. Today, we are going to walk through each 4 of these steps in detail. So let's get started by looking at step 1, determining your eligibility. In order to be eligible for a SEVIS transfer, number 1, a student must be in active or valid F status. 2, the last date of enrollment or the last date of OPT must be within 5 months, less than 152 days of the start of classes at the new school. And 3, The SEVIS record must be released before the end of the 60-day grace period of the student's active Form I-20. For number 3, this is in regards to the timing of your SEVIS record. Your SEVIS record must be released to UC San Diego before the end of your respective grace period. For F1 students, you have a 60-day grace period following the completion of your enrollment or OPT. You must request that your current institution release your SEVIS record to UC San Diego before the end of your 60-day grace period. Some common questions that F students typically ask when they're trying to determine whether they are eligible for a SEVIS transfer is, where do I find my program end date? How do I know when my grace period starts and ends? In other words, how do I figure out my deadline to transfer? So let's talk about how to determine your program end date. Your program end date is what will determine the start and end date and end of your grace period. So for locating your program end date, if you are currently enrolled and will not be undertaking OPT prior to starting your new program at UC San Diego, you can look on your current Form I-20 for your program end date. It's very important to note that sometimes this date may not be properly updated. It may be an estimate of your anticipated program completion and not reflect your actual last day of enrollment. We strongly encourage you to check with your current DSO or International Student Office to verify your actual program end date. You will need to make sure that your last day of enrollment at your current school is within 5 months of your start of classes or initial session start date here at UC San Diego. This is the last date of enrollment. The last date of enrollment is also what will determine the start of your 60-day grace period. In other words, the time frame in which you must transfer your SEVIS record. Next slide. Oh, thank you. Alternatively, if you are currently on post-completion OPT or STEM OPT extension, instead of referencing your last date of enrollment, you will use the last date of your authorized OPT as your program end date for the purposes of the SEVIS transfer process. You can reference the card expires date on your current EAD card to see when your last day of authorized OPT is. You will need to make sure that your last date of authorized OPT is within 5 months of your start of classes here at UC San Diego. The last date of authorized OPT is also what will determine the start of your 60-day grace period. In other words, the time frame within which you must transfer your SEVIS record. Now that we've discussed how to locate your program end date, let's talk about the 60-day grace period. Remember that the start and end of your grace period is determined by your actual program end date. In the 60 days following either your last day of enrollment or your last day of authorized OPT, you must take action on your SEVIS record. Some of the actions that F1 students can take during their 60-day grace period are working in the US via OPT, starting a new program at their current school, starting a new program at a new school, or pursuing a change of status to a different visa category. Or if none of these actions are taken, the student must depart the US by the end of their 60-day grace period. In this presentation, we are talking about the action of starting a new program at a new school. This is the SEVIS transfer process. To be eligible for the SEVIS transfer, your SEVIS record must be released to UC San Diego before the end of the 60-day grace period following your last date of enrollment or your last date of authorized OPT. We have some different scenarios we will walk through. So if you're currently enrolled, here is a visualization of how you can understand your grace period. If you, the student, do not take any action within your 60-day grace period as someone who's currently enrolled, such as transferring your SEVIS record or applying for OPT, etc., then your SEVIS record will complete and your SEVIS status will automatically end. Once that happens, you will no longer be eligible for the transfer. For students who are on approved OPT, it means you have your EAD card. If you do not take one of the actions previously discussed within your 60-day grace period, then your SEVIS record will complete and your F status will automatically end. If your F status completes, you will no longer be eligible for the transfer. To summarize everything we have just talked about so far, remember, you need to determine your program end date to confirm if you're eligible for the SEVIS transfer. You also have to confirm, is your F status in good standing? Are you completing enrollment or OPT within 5 months of your start of classes here at UC San Diego? And can you ensure that your current institution can transfer your SEVIS record to UC San Diego before the end of your 60-day grace period? Now that we've looked at step 1, let's look at step 2. You will need to talk to your current institution, that is, talk to your DSO or your International Student Office and ask them, how do I request a transfer on my SEVIS record? What do I need to submit in order for you to release my SEVIS record? Most schools require students to fill out a form of some kind in order to request a SEVIS transfer. Your current DSO or International Office will be able to tell you what they require. I will also plug their website here. They likely have a page that is dedicated to walking students through the SEVIS transfer process. So, for example, if you are at the University of Michigan, you might type into Google University of Michigan SEVIS transfer, and then that will populate some pages that walk you through. It's a great idea to review those before reaching out to speak to someone directly, just so you're prepared to ask very specific questions. When you talk to your DSO or International Office, it's also a good idea to check your eligibility with them. Remember that you should have already done the work of step 1 ahead of time to determine that you are eligible for the SEVIS transfer. But it is a great idea to check your understanding of your eligibility with your current school, especially if you have questions about it. So for example, it might be, can you please help me confirm my program end date? Is it X, Y, and Z? So that way you understand your grace period to understand your eligibility. When you request your SEVIS transfer, you are going to need to tell your current institution what date you would like them to release your SEVIS record to UC San Diego. If you remember from earlier in this presentation, your SEVIS release date is the specific day that your current school will electronically transfer your SEVIS record to us here at UC San Diego. It is your responsibility to choose your SEVIS release date. Your current DSO or International Office may be able to help advise on what date to select or what works best in your situation, but ultimately it is your decision and you will provide this information to your current International Office. Grace, can we go back one slide? Okay, thanks. It is important to remember that you need to choose a SEVIS release date that is before the end of your 60-day grace period. If you are currently enrolled, your SEVIS release date must be a date within your grace period. If you are currently in OPT, your SEVIS release date must be from the date either within your grace period or a date during your authorized OPT if the release date meets the 5-month rule. We are going to take a look at each of these scenarios with visuals so that you can apply your own situation to a relevant timeline. Our first visual is for currently enrolled students at another institution or a student who's currently enrolled or just recently enrolled in selecting a SEVIS release date. So we can see here that your SEVIS release date has to be within your 60-day grace period. And your 60-day grace period begins the day after your last day of enrollment. And we know that when you want to transfer your SEVIS record, you have 152 days or 5 months to start your new program. You can see a gap between the end of your grace period and the start of starting classes here at UC San Diego. That is okay. You can lawfully remain in the United States during that period of time with your transfer I-20. You do not have to exit and depart at this time. But this is really useful in thinking through when you want to select a SEVIS release date, at what point in that grace period. Once you decide on a SEVIS release date and follow your current institution's process for requesting the SEVIS transfer, your current school will release your SEVIS record to UC San Diego on the date that you have chosen. And from the day that your SEVIS record is transferred, past the end of your grace period until you begin your new program here at UC San Diego, again, you may remain in the United States. You do not have to depart the United States during this time, so you don't have to exit and re-enter on that transfer I-20. As long as you meet the transfer eligibility requirements and your SEVIS record gets released within your 60-day grace period, you may remain in the US and wait until the start of your new program. Here's a visual for our students currently on active OPT. As in the prior example, the student is going to request a specific SEVIS release date that is within their 60-day grace period. And in the time between their SEVIS release date and the start of their new program here at UC San Diego, they may remain in the United States. But it is important to remember that during this period after your SEVIS release date, while you are waiting for your new program to start, you may not continue OPT employment because your OPT has ended. Your OPT ends the day your record is released. I'm going to say that one more time. During this period, while you are waiting for your new program to start, you may lawfully remain within the US, but you may not continue your OPT employment because your OPT has ended. And for our students who will be transferring their SEVIS record and ending their OPT early, it means you are students who are not transferring on the last day of your EAD card. You are transferring sometime before that. As in the other two scenarios, in the time between your SEVIS release date and the start of your new program here at UC San Diego, you can remain in the US, but you may not continue your OPT employment because your OPT will have ended. Okay, so I know this already has been a lot of information. Remember, don't worry, this webinar will be posted online if you decide you would like to look at it again at a later date. We're going to move on to step 3. The next 2 steps are slightly less information, so that's the good news. And step 3, after you have chosen your SEVIS release date and you have followed your current institution's process for requesting the SEVIS transfer, you now request your Form I-20 from us here at UC San Diego. To request your new Form I-20, you will need to visit our online International Student Services platform called iServices. You can access this by going to iservices.ucsd.edu. There we have all of the information you need to review on inewdegreestudent.ucsd.edu under step 1. We also have webinars that contain the process of requesting an I-20 from our office. So please feel free to review that resource. We won't be reviewing that specifically today, but please note this is where you go to request your transfer I-20 from us once you have navigated through steps 1 and 2 with your current institution. In iServices, you will submit one of the following new admit service forms. We have them listed here at the top. If you begin in the summer, you will have some questions we'll answer. You'll enter them through the iPortal request to ensure that you have the appropriate start date. Regardless of which one of these new admit forms you fill out, the form will ask you a series of questions to collect your SEVIS transfer information. Actually, this is what you will see when you're in iServices and you've done, for example, the new Admit I-20. You will provide information here about the SEVIS transfer eligibility. So you'll see this and you'll provide your institution's information, your current SEVIS ID, and you'll also provide us the date that you told your institution to transfer your record. Because we cannot issue the transfer I-20 before your SEVIS release date. So for example, if you're currently enrolled in a quarter system, you're likely finishing classes in June. So we wouldn't be able to issue a transfer I-20 sometime in May. We have to wait until after your institution. So you'll give us all this information here, so that way we can do our best to process your I-20 request in a timely fashion. All right, our last step. Now that you've submitted your new Admit I-20 request in iServices, the last step in the SEVIS transfer process is to receive the I-20 and to take the necessary actions to complete your transfer. When you receive your new Form I-20, it will show your SEVIS record as being in transfer pending status. This is on the top left of the form. Your SEVIS transfer cannot be fully completed until you have met certain enrollment requirements and submitted a check-in form following the start of your UC San Diego program. So let's quickly talk through what you need to do. Once you receive your transfer pending Form I-20 from UC San Diego, please review it to ensure all of the information is correct and that your SEVIS ID number matches the SEVIS ID on your previous I-20 form from your previous institution. We will also email these instructions to you, and they are available at inewdegreestudent.ucsd.edu. Be sure to review that information on that I-20. It is your responsibility. You may enroll in courses. Check with your college or academic department. You are expected to enroll full-time in person by your Form I-20 program start date. So if you have a fall program start date, you must enroll full-time and meet in-person requirements for the fall term. You are required to report any changes to ISEO through the iServices new Admit updated I-20 request to maintain your Form I-20. You may apply for on-campus employment. You may travel and re-enter the US. You are not subject to the 30-day rule as you were with your initial I-20 request. And you may use your new I-20 to apply or to renew for an F1 visa from abroad. We're almost at the end. Last but least, please know that your SEVIS transfer is not complete until your program start date at UC San Diego arrives and you have submitted your check-in form via iServices.ucsd.edu. In iServices, there is a service called Check-in for I-20 activation. You must submit this form within 10 days of your UC San Diego program start date. Again, you can find that start date on your Form I-20. For most of you, it will be a fall 25 program start date. So sometime in September and early October, you need to have that check-in form submitted. The check-in form will ask you a series of questions, including having you confirm that you are in the US. We cannot complete the check-in for you if you have traveled outside the US and have not returned yet. Once we have received your check-in form, we will activate your SEVIS record, and your SEVIS transfer process will then be considered complete. Please, on the side of caution, to just give you an example of what happens when you do not submit this check-in form, it means that your SEVIS record cannot be activated, and so it's canceled. And if that happens to you, you're going to have to get a new SEVIS ID, exit and re-enter the United States, and reestablish your CPT and OPT eligibility. It's not a fun process. And you might ask, does this actually happen? Yes, it does. It seems like a small thing, but please take note that your SEVIS record is not activated with UC San Diego until your program start date begins. You reach your fall 25 program start date or summer, and you submit this check-in form to let us know you're here and let us know that you're full-time enrolled. So don't forget to do it. So in summary, for step 4, your new transfer pending I-20 will be issued to you after your SEVIS release date has passed and we have received your iServices request for it. Once you get your new I-20, double check the information and remember that your SEVIS transfer process is not complete until your program start date arrives and you have submitted the check-in form in iServices. Okay, so now we have gone through the four steps of the SEVIS transfer process. I will turn the webinar back over to Grace for some final reminders about how to get engaged before we move on to a time of question and answer. If you still have questions, now is a good time to submit those questions using the Q&A feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen.
Mhm. Okay, like Vanessa said, I'm going to go through some opportunities for engagement. So first off, I want to highlight our iNews student newsletter. So this is already being sent to your UC San Diego email. So again, completing those first steps checklist will be really important so that you can gain access to your UCSD email and check our iNews student newsletter. We are going to send timely information and reminders via the newsletter. Often like, hey, we have this webinar coming up and it might be really helpful and relevant to you. Or, hey, we have this deadline coming up. Make sure to submit these forms. So please go ahead and already get in the practice of checking your UC San Diego email. Second, we have a couple of guides that we've put together for our new and incoming students. So first is our welcome guide. Our welcome guide highlights kind of a checklist. We know that this is a lot of information, and so these guides kind of make it a little bit more digestible, easier to read, easier on the eyes, things like that. So it has a checklist for before you start classes, preparing for arrival, and upon arrival. And you can find these guides at the link listed on the screen. We also have our Surf Check Guide. Our Surf Check Guide is slightly different in the sense that it was created for students by students. So it was created based on the common questions students have as they transition to life in the US. And life at UC San Diego specifically. So this is a very comprehensive guide. It's being built out continually. But we recently had our Surf Check Live webinar earlier this week on Tuesday. And there's a lot of good information covered there. Topics like arranging transportation from the airport to campus, setting up a phone account, setting up a bank account, and more. Finally, we're so excited to invite you to our signature programs. So our signature programs are reoccurring programs throughout the academic year. So often these include our global coffee hour, our game night, our crafting event. They take place monthly throughout the academic year, and it's an opportunity for you to come, hang out, meet people from around the world, and really just kind of take a break and be a human. A lot of folks at UC San Diego are high achievers, highly motivated, but it's okay to take a break and have a holistic student experience. And so we invite you to do that with us at iPrograms. Two programs that I want to specifically highlight are our peer mentorship programs. So GAP is our Global Ambassador Peer Mentorship Program for our undergraduate students. So in this program, you will be matched with a current undergraduate UC San Diego student to just be able to ask all these different questions of, what's my college like? What's orientation like? Where do you eat on campus? Where do you study on campus? They are a great resource because they've navigated this process just like you. And they're also someone that you can just ask these questions to and already starts to build your community before even physically arriving. Grad Pals is our peer mentorship for our graduate students. And so again, it's a summer-long peer mentorship program. We often try to match folks within their same department because we know that so much is determined by which department you're in. And it's a great resource to, again, start to build that community and then have the chance to meet those people upon arrival in the fall. Our iEvents calendar is our live calendar. So this features events that both our office is hosting as well as our campus partners, student organizations, etc. And these are for events that either have a global focus or promote the internationalization of our university. And so it's a great resource. Sometimes students will just start to bookmark this page, and then whenever they're trying to figure out like, what do I want to do this weekend? What's happening this week? They'll hop on iEvents and see what's going on. And then finally, if you would like to get a snapshot into what life at UC San Diego is like, specifically as an international student, we would highly encourage you to follow us on Instagram. So Instagram is a really common social media platform that many US students use and UC San Diego students and departments use. And our Instagram is really kind of targeted at what is the international student experience like at UC San Diego? So you can see we have a lot of different students represented here. We have a lot of different like places to explore around San Diego. So it's a great way to get a snapshot into what life might be like. Okay, so some final additional resources. As a reminder, there are a couple things that you can start doing now. So for example, begin requesting your visa documents through ICE services, applying for on-campus housing. Do know that if there is a little bit of a delay between when you apply for on-campus housing and hear back, that is totally normal. You can reach out to our colleagues in housing, dining, and hospitality, or HDH, as you'll often hear to it referred to as. Just a heads up, UC San Diego is a very large campus with a lot of offices and a lot of acronyms. So if at any point you hear acronyms being thrown around and you're like, what does that mean? Please ask, because it's a lot and it's really overwhelming when you're first beginning to join UC San Diego. But typically offers are made 60 days prior to the move-in date. In July is when a lot of your health insurance and immunization requirements are due, health immunization specifically. And then September is when tuition is due, move-in, check-in, and when a lot of your orientations are due. As a reminder, if you're an undergraduate student, you will attend your college orientation in addition to international orientation. And if you are a graduate student, you will attend your department orientation in addition to international orientation. But you can find out more about international orientation at iorientation.ucsd.edu. And this will conclude our pre-arrival webinar series for our new and incoming students. As a reminder, we have been putting all of our pre-arrival webinar, both recordings and slides, at inewstudentwebinars.ucsd.edu. You can see the drawer here lists the fall 2025 pre-arrival webinars. We're in the process of just finishing posting those recordings. So do allow about 1 week, but again, this can be a resource that you can go back to. I know we share a lot of information, and so hopefully this is something that you can easily go back and then refer to. Finally, we are offering a survey. So we are so excited to begin interacting and supporting our new students. We host these pre-arrival webinars to do just that, to support you in your transition. And we want to know if it was helpful for you. Additionally, if there's any questions that maybe we missed or any topics that you would like us to go into more detail, we review these surveys, and that's actually how we build out our orientation in the fall. So if you have any feedback for us, please go ahead and fill out that survey. And we really want to hear from you to make sure that you feel as prepared and supported as possible when beginning your journey at UC San Diego. And with that, we will transfer to some time for open question and answer. So I'll hand it over to Vanessa. As you've been scrolling through the Q&A, are there any questions you'd like to verbally address?
Yeah, thank you, Grace. There's some really great questions in here, and I really want to say thank you to everyone. There's a lot of general questions, so I appreciate that. There's a really great question about visa validity. So the question is, I have a valid F1 visa, but my I-20 has been expired for more than 5 months. Can I just request a new I-20 with a new SEVIS record instead of a SEVIS transfer from UCSD and use the old visa with the new I-20 to enter the United States? So this is really great. It sounds like the student has established their eligibility for a SEVIS transfer, which is no, it's more than 5 months. So they're asking, can I get a new I-20 and is my visa still valid? This is a question that's connected to a few other questions here because it addresses visa validity with either a different school name, a different SEVIS ID, or both of those. And for this, I will have to say we defer to the consulate or embassy who issued the visa because they are the authority on that visa issuance. So typically, if you have a visa that at the time you entered with an I-20 with the same school name and the same SEVIS ID, you can then use that visa again for a later entry if the school name has changed or the SEVIS has changed. However, if you want to enter, you just recently been issued a visa and now all of a sudden the school name and the SEVIS ID are different before you've ever entered on it. In that situation, CBP does have more questions and potentially it can cause an issue for entry. So that's a lot of information just to say that we need you to do the legwork of just sending an email to the embassy or consulate to confirm its validity, if the school name or SEVIS ID has been updated. But that's a really great question. I see a question about STEM OPT. So the question is, what happens if I am on STEM OPT and still have a year left, but I am accepted to start at a UCSD for a grad program in the fall? If this is pertaining specifically to your SEVIS transfer eligibility, you'll follow the information for OPT. So all of the information we covered today for the OPT transfer process still applies to students who are on STEM OPT. STEM OPT is just an extension of initial OPT. So you will have to determine your eligibility and what date, your timeline. You have a date in the future. So the slides that we have that say ending OPT early in the SEVIS transfer process, those apply to you when you're on STEM OPT, since you still have time in the future. And if you would like to, I would recommend talking about your specific dates with your current institution that holds your SEVIS ID that you have STEM OPT with. This is another great question. Am I able to depart the US before I receive the I-20 from UCSD? We actually have a lot of our current students at UCSD asking this question. When we issue a transfer I-20, we do not check to see where you were located. So that does not bar you from getting a UCSD transfer I-20 if you are outside of the country. We will still issue that transfer I-20. I am only speaking as a DSO here at UCSD. You have to ask that question of every institution you're considering transferring to. So if you wanted to depart, it is really important to know that you cannot re-enter the United States until you have your transfer I-20. So we will issue it, but you can't re-enter until you have that. So that depends on your travel plans, unpredictable processing times. You need to plan your schedule around that. But great question. Let's see. This question is regarding summer CPT with your current institution. So this question, I have a summer CPT during this time with my current school. Do I take the last day of my employment as the last day of enrollment? This is a question for your current institution because you need to establish your program end date. And if you've got a summer CPT, you're going to have to confirm that with them. It's going to be some kind of last day of enrollment. That needs to happen with your current institution's DSOs. And then you'll have to ensure that the timeline matches with our timeline here at UCSD. But yeah, talk to your DSO at your current institution. Can we work in our current university during the SEVIS transfer pending period? For example, short-term summer employment. So to understand, we as your DSOs, we help you manage your SEVIS ID. So when your SEVIS ID is held by UC San Diego, on campus and off campus is eligible with your current institution. Those are because you have an active record with an institution. If your current institution releases your SEVIS record, then your on-campus eligibility is no longer applicable with that institution. It is applicable for UCSD. So for example, if you're a student, let's say you're at UCLA and you're coming to UCSD for the fall term, you get your SEVIS transfer I-20 at the end of June, you would be eligible for on-campus employment here at UCSD starting in June, but you are not eligible for on-campus employment at UCLA once your SEVIS record is released to us. Do we need a new F visa to re-enter the US if it is not expired, even if it says the name of our previous school? We answered this in the previous chat, in a previous question. Talk to the embassy or consulate to confirm. Generally, it's okay if you've already entered on that visa. If you haven't, then the embassy will provide you further guidance, but always confirm with them. We don't want any surprises because we're trying to re-enter. This question is, let's see, if my program finishes at the beginning of June and I'll depart the US at the end of that program end date, will I receive an I-20 from UCSD? If not, can I still depart before I receive the I-20 and receive the I-20 outside of the United States? So The first part of this question, you have to work through your SEVIS transfer eligibility. That means kind of reviewing the initial slides, we have a transfer, we have a whole bunch of transfer information for transfer ins. Then also talk to your current DSO, current institution, review their website to number one, ensure that you are eligible for a SEVIS transfer. Then number two, this question was just answered. We here at UCSD, we DSOs, we do not check where you are. If you're inside or outside the country, when we issue a transfer ID, a transfer I-20, we do check your eligibility. We do check that it's less than 152 days, and we do your last day of enrollment at your current institution to your program start date here at UCSD. We do check that. If you're not eligible, then we'll let you know on our end, but vet that first with your DSO, and then regardless of where you are in the world, we will issue your transfer I-20. Okay, do we need to submit an I-20 to ISEO, reflecting the last day of employment if ending OPT early? No, we don't need to see that information. So let's use University of Michigan as an example. If you are on OPT with the University of Michigan, then before you transfer your SEVIS record, you want to make sure everything on your SEVIS portal and everything with your OPT is wrapped up with your current institution. They will have instructions and guidance for you, but basically you just want to make sure everything that is up to date, because once your record is transferred, your DSOs at University of Michigan, for example, can't make any updates. So you just want to make sure that last date of employment, everything is set to go before your record is transferred. So yeah, check in with your current institution's DSO if you need some more clarification, but we don't ask to see that. That's vetted by your current institution. Will there be an official reminder for check-in? So many. We will send you so many. We will send them in your newsletters. And then every time you see one of us during orientation, we're going to ask you, have you submitted your check-in form yet? Or if you come to visit us the first 2 weeks of school, everyone will ask you. But most importantly, it will be in the newsletters that we send out to your UCSD email. So please do read them. Is it advised to travel outside the US before the program start if we're on OPT? If so, is there a time limit that we can be outside? This is a larger question it's a good question. And in ordinary times, a transfer I-20 is a transfer I-20. But I will ask you to think through this with your current institution's DSOs or international office, because they likely have updated travel guidance and some specific questions they want you to think through. And it's just, we won't have the time to think through that together today. So yeah, check in with your current DSO for your specific situation to see if there's any things that you need to be concerned about in traveling. Because remember, if you're ending OPT early, if you're traveling abroad, you will re-enter with that transfer I-20. So really your question is, do I need to be concerned about traveling internationally? And at this time, I'll defer to your current institution because they have access to your record and can help you navigate through that. I have a question regarding the issue of the I-20. Will the I-20 be issued via email or physically? We are in 2025. When we issue the I-20 through iServices, we will send you an email, and that email will contain your I-20. And it'll also be in your iServices portal. If you lose the email or you don't have access to it, you can also go through iServices. But in my opinion, it's easiest just to access it from the email directly. So electronically. Oh, this is a question. This is a great question. But okay, so about the 60 days max from last day of OPT for transfer. Does it matter if we have a few days of unemployment? Does the 60 days reduce to fewer days? So this is a question you will want to talk through with your current DSO, because yes, there are ways that OPT unemployment does or can impact a SEVIS transfer, depending on how your unemployment impacts your SEVIS transfer timeline. For one example, if by the time you reach 60 days of unemployment, the guidance is that you depart the United States. So your DSO will help you take into account what that employment is, and what that timeline is. So Sorry, I can't answer more of that. It's a good question. Please talk about it with your current DSO. Suppose my OPT EAD end dates on June 1st, and I have applied for STEM OPT and waiting for the new EAD. When does my 60-day grace period for transfer start? Yeah, I would need to see dates. As a DSO, I would want to see the dates for the OPT and the STEM OPT, the EAD for the OPT, and then the application for STEM OPT. Because of course, and you also need to know what your program start date is here at UCSD. So you want to have those dates and then talk to your current institution's DSO. I guess maybe I didn't make this so clear in the beginning, but your current institution, they are going to vet your eligibility based on what they see in your record. Because when a record is transferred to us, we don't see all of the information. We see some, but we don't see all of the information that the current institution can see. So they are the ones responsible for really helping confirm what is that eligibility from your last date of enrollment or your last day of employment or your last day of OPT eligibility. They're going to help you navigate that better than I can right now because they can see all of that information. But what you need to bring to them is your initial session start date here at UCSD. And that for the fall is September 25th, 2025. So talk to your DSO. This question we've answered. In what situation would we be able to enter the US on an unexpired visa from a different institution? I'm going to answer this question a little bit differently because it's a popular one. So we, your DSOs, do not govern the validity of that visa. The embassy or consulate who issued it is the one who has the authority to say if it's valid or not. Additionally, when you are entering into the United States, you will encounter CBP agents, and they are determining your admissibility to the United States based on the documents that they present. So in both of those circumstances, between the embassy and consulate who issued the visa and then the CBP agent who is looking at the visa, we, your DSOs, do not have the authority, and we also cannot see into the future to predict if it's going to be sufficient for admissibility. So you will have to confirm with the embassy or consulate when they respond, likely an email. I would print that out and keep that with you for if you're traveling on a previous visa that's still valid, but it has a different school name or a different SEVIS ID. That would be my recommendation. I had said that typically in the past, in ordinary circumstances, if someone, let's say we had a UCSD student stay with us for their undergraduate degree, they had their valid visa that had UC San Diego on it and had their SEVIS ID. When they entered, their I-20 matched. So their I-20 had the same SEVIS ID on that visa. The student finishes their undergraduate program, they go home for a year, but their visa is still valid. They want to know if they can use it. Typically, the embassy would say yes, if the visa is still valid and at the time you used it first, everything matched, you can now re-enter with it with a different school name and a different SEVIS ID. That's been the experience in the past, but we cannot for sure. So we're not sure if that's how things are operating right now. And that's why we have to say you really need to check with the embassy or consulate. I would not recommend risking it and not checking first. Do transfer students on an active F1 visa need to submit all the financial documents? Yes. Okay. Yes, you do. And I'm actually going to link, we can get the financial documents link. It's linked in I New Degree students in the instructions, but 99.9% of the time that an I-20 request is set to incomplete is because students have not reviewed and or followed the instructions for submitting financial documents. So just save yourself time, save us time, as clear as you can make it, follow those instructions. But yes, you do. I am confused with August, September start dates. My program starts in fall 25, but has a math camp beforehand in early September. Should I consider June 1 as the deadline for SEVIS transfer or August 1 in this case? This is a specific question, but of course, the earlier you get it submitted, the earlier you'll get it. So I think it depends on how long you want your current institution to hold your SEVIS ID and how soon you want us to issue it. So other than that, I'll say, come talk to us or come talk to your current DSO. I need to see dates. Can you work off campus in first graduate year? This is more of an employment-based question. We do have some really great employment workshops that I would recommend seeing. We also have like an entire employment website. Let me see if I can. Oh yeah, Grace is doing a great job linking those. So review that information. The answer is it depends. It depends on your CPT eligibility. It also depends if your program supports it, right? Off CPT isn't just for any employment. It needs to be it needs to be curricular. It needs to be established with your program. So in addition to the immigration eligibility, you also have to confirm with your department if they're supportive of CPT in the first year. You also, if you're a PhD student, you're going to be working on campus. So there are also there are guidelines that your graduate program will have for you in terms of off-campus employment that are non-immigration based. So yeah, look at our employment, check out our workshops, but I would say look at our CPT website, cpt.ucsc.edu. And then if you're a graduate student, talk to your graduate advisor. And if you're an undergraduate student, you would need to talk to the college or department major advisors, probably college if you're, yeah, you'll want to talk to your undergraduate advisors. Do we need to report our SEVIS transfer to CBP or Consulate General? No, there's no formal way to report this. You're asking the consulate. If you have a SEVIS transfer, you're going to have the same SEVIS ID. It's just going to have that new institution's name. So you'll confirm that with the embassy or the consulate. And then when CBP is looking at your I-20, they're going to see transfer pending. They're going to see that, and they can see all kinds of other information. So the question about do we need to report, I would say just be comfortable with explaining why you were asking to be admitted into the United States. We have yeah, just be prepared to, you're transferring, you're starting a graduate program, you're transferring from community college to your undergraduate program. Just be prepared to explain if they have any questions. But no, there's no formal mechanism at this point in time for you to report that information. Okay, I think I'm gonna do 2 more questions. What if I am outside the 5-month window? I'm on STEM OPT and still have a year left. So I am not within that 5-month window of end date on my OPT. I'm just going to say, I think you need to talk to your DSO, but the information we presented today still stands. So we discussed 2 types of OPT students, and this is for OPT, STEM OPT. One is the student who will be transferring their SEVIS record on the end date on their EAD card. It sounds like that's what you're talking about. The other type of OPT transfer is when a student will end their OPT early to begin their new program. So I believe, I'm not sure if this question means the student wants to continue for another year of their STEM OPT and then come to UCSC. That means just talking to the department, getting that deferral if possible. You'll work with your department on that. But if you're asking, oh, my EAD card isn't for another year, then I would just say review the slides and the information that we have specifically for students who are ending OPT early. Because yeah, we've covered that, and the slides will be up in just less than a week. But that's what the information you'll follow, just ending OPT early. And then I would recommend speaking to your current DSO to understand more of the nuances of that. Once I receive my I-20, can I re-enter the United States at any time? The transfer I-20, yes. You're not bound to the 30-day entry prior, so you can re-enter on that transfer I-20, so long as you have all the other required documents. Oh, okay, I think we only have 2 more, so I'll answer these 2 more. What is the latest date to get SEVIS transferred and get an updated I-20 from UCSD? If I start the process in mid-August and transfer for a September 22 start date. So we have August 1 as our deadline. And beyond that, I will ask you to set an appointment to talk to us if you have more specific questions, but August 1 is our deadline for fall starts to submit for their documents. It sounds like you have a very specific question about your specific timeline. Schedule an appointment with us so we can help you navigate through that. We'll be happy to do so. Let's see. Yeah, so for the advising link about availability, appointments open daily or a week in advance. So for example, today, Thursday, appointments will open for next Wednesday. So check back often and frequently. We are impacted right now. And so we appreciate your patience. But we have really, really high numbers this year, which we're really excited about, but it means that our resources are a bit impacted. So it could take some time. I don't know. Yeah. And we also cancel appointments. So like students will cancel appointments, or we have to cancel appointments, or the questions are like if something's already been resolved. So you can check back often throughout the day because appointments can become available. Final question. Do consulates generally require transfer students to send them our new I-20? I think this is in regards to confirming with the embassy or consulate who issued the visa to confirm if the visa is valid. If that is your question, I have not been made aware that a student who requested the consulate to confirm if the visa was valid with the new school's name, that the embassy then requested to see the new school's I-20. I have not heard that. But you'll ask them, and if they do, let us know. So I can know that they're asking that, but it would be a lot of extra work for them. So they'll send you their response, I think. Okay, Grace, thanks for staying with us through all these questions.
Thank you for answering all those questions. We appreciate, your time, your expertise, your experience. Thank you, students, for all of your great questions. As Vanessa said, we are experiencing high numbers this year, which is so exciting, and we're a little stretched thin. So as much as we are excited to welcome you and support you, we also really appreciate your patience and your understanding. Please check back frequently with us. We are trying to do these resources to try to support a large number of students, and we look forward to interacting with you again soon. All right, take care and have a great rest of your day.